So by this point, you're somewhere in your Leathercraft journey. You're making wallets, you're making journal covers or keychains. You're excited about the craft, but you're also at the point when your hands are starting to hurt from all that saddle stitching, right? You're ready for your first sewing machine. So many features, so many options. Which one do you choose? Today, I'm gonna go over the machine that I wish I started with. Hope to save you guys some money, some time within the process, break it down in 5 sections for why I wish I had started with the Texo 2750 Pro model. Let's get after it. So when we're talking about sewing machines, I think it's a really important place to start with the expectation that one machine or the other isn't right for everybody, right? It's really dependent upon the projects that you're doing, what types of things you're working on, and thinking ahead what types of products you're going to be making. For me, when I first started, it was things like wallets, journal covers, flat items, right? And as we progressed in our product line, we got into things like bags. And the very first time I did this bag, I remember looking at it and thinking, well, I'm either gonna hand stitch this or I'm gonna have a heck of a time getting it through the flatbed machine, right? It's really where the idea or the necessity for a cylinder arm machine came into play. And that's what I'm hoping to save you. This Juki was somewhere around $2,500 or $3,000, I think. And I would love to be able to save you that cost by introducing you to the Texo, which in my opinion is the best way to go if you are going to be getting into bags later in the future, or hats, or things that, gussets, anything that has a curve that can be hard to manipulate on a flatbed machine. The 2750 is the way to go because of the flatbed attachment, which we'll get into later. So I told you how I got to the point of needing this machine. And now we're gonna get into the 5 reasons why I think if you're gonna get into bags and gussets, this should be the machine you start with. So point number 1 was the setup. This actually came to me on a pallet, I believe in about 3 separate boxes. It was the table, the machine itself, obviously some of the, the accessories and nuts and bolts, but for the most part, it was set up and ready to go. I did have to attach some belts, but once I got this thing up and assembled, put the nuts and bolts in, I think it was about an hour of time. The one thing I was really concerned about was obviously the timing on the hook and the needle, right? Because it can just be a make or break when it comes to the output and quality of your work. And I was really surprised at the fact that there wasn't a whole lot I needed to tweak once I got this thing assembled. But that brings us into point number 2 of why I think Texo is truly a great company. They have pretty remarkable service. Ron and the team over there, kudos to you guys. They're based out of Canada and a small family-owned company, both through Instagram and social media, as well as through their 1-800 number there. They've been readily available if I have had any questions, as well as if something were to come up in the future. That's, it's truly such a big thing and a value to me to know that if something were to go wrong with this machine, unlike the Juki behind me, I can probably find the support for that, but knowing that there's people there, at any point in time to answer my questions was a really big bonus. With all that being said, number 3 is the features, some of the really neat things and the functionality of this machine. So let's dive into it. So one of the first coolest parts about it, obviously, is the digital speed reducer with the servo motor. The combination makes this just a really great machine for, if you're doing quick work and doing straight edges, you can adjust the speed to be a little bit faster. And if you need to slow down, you've got that functionality as well. So a couple other things to walk through and to talk about here. So if we engage the switch here, what you'll see is that it engages a really neat laser that's being projected through here. Texo came out with this and allows you to have a little laser guide for where your line work is going to be, which is pretty handy. Additionally, you've got your edge guide, which the thing I love about that is it's just really easy to engage or disengage if you want it. There, you've got it. If not, you can get it out of the way pretty easy. And another thing to highlight, y'all, is the fact that this actually is a triple feed mechanism, which means you've got 2 presser feet, right, and then your feed dog underneath. One thing I've been really surprised over, and we're going to run this to kind of show you what I mean, is just at how clean the work is. The fact that there is really no lines on the face of your leather makes it a really handy thing when you're talking about the finished product of your work. It's actually really incredible. I know you can't see that. We'll pull it out here in a second. But probably, people's favorite feature of this machine overall is what's called their needle positioning system. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. When I engage the treadle, we're just going to push it once here. We're going to watch what happens to the needle. Did you guys catch that? What happened was it's just coming up and down one time for every push. Now, if you see where it's stopping, it's actually stopping at the point to where I would actually need to turn if I was doing, say, a 90-degree angle or such. And the really nice thing about this, and why it's also something that takes, just a little bit to get used to, is normally with, say, the flatbed machine, or if you're a new sewer, you're going to have to use this hand crank or manually adjust your machine to get that piece just right and get the needle just right before you turn so you don't skip a stitch. With this, it's perfectly in just the right position now where I can go ahead and turn the leather to where I need to go, and it's going to be in just the perfect spot. So that makes it, it's a little bit hard to get used to, but it makes it so awesome for when you're doing things like 90-degree edges on a wallet or a book cover, right? Here's the other really cool thing. So if I push the back side of this treadle right here, what you're going to see, watch this. That needle jumps up so that you can pull out the leather here, gauge the foot pedal. How cool is that? So that actually brings us into point 3, which is just the finish of the work, y'all. I don't know if you can see that, but it just creates really beautiful work, both in not only the finish of the product, but also just the ease of getting that tension right. And just for comparison, this is actually done on our Juki. You can see some of the presser foot marks and just the difference between the two there. So in terms of really getting a beautiful finished product, it's not that this is bad per se, it's just that this creates really gorgeous work that we prefer. Number 4 is actually the versatility of this machine. So I don't have this fully assembled, but I've got it set in here. So what this flatbed attachment actually allows you to do, as you can see, it's got little rods that in probably about 5 minutes screw into the bottom of this. And then all you have to do, set that aside, is tuck it into these holes. And it takes a couple minutes just to make sure you're right. On the bottom, you're going to take your bolts that came with this, screw it in, get it adjusted. But what you then have is a flatbed attachment to be able to do the same type of work that you were doing on the Juki. This right here, you guys, the versatility of both being able to do gussets and use this room, this space to be able to tuck a bag through is awesome, because it means in just a couple minutes, if you know what projects you're going to do ahead of time, you can set this thing up so that you're raring and ready to go. That way you don't need to have 2 machines in the first place. Money saved, added features, what's not to love? So we're getting pretty close here. If I haven't already made your mind up that this guy is the machine that you should buy off the jump, you should see the backstitch, which is number 5. The cleanliness of the backstitch, y'all. Having a machine like this that basically does the work for you, and knowing that needle is going to jump into the perfect hole every time is just so nice. Let's see it. So I already told you and bragged a little bit about this backstitch, but you guys have to see it to believe it. Here we go. One press. Look how clean that is. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. To me, this is the biggest difference maker in this machine and why it distinguishes itself. The versatility and the functionality to be able to do gussets and bags we talked about, as well as flat items with this flatbed attachment, makes the Texo 2750 Pro, in my opinion, if you're gonna make the investment, the #1 machine to start with. It's the machine I wish I had started with because it probably would have gotten rid of the Juki. Don't get me wrong, I love what we've been able to do with this machine so far. However, all that being said, save yourself some money. If you're gonna make the investment, do your research. As I talked to other makers, each of the makers that I respected had really tremendous things to say about this and what it's able to do, but do your research on the backside. And if a cylinder arm is in the investment, maybe it's not this machine at this time, look for something that has this flatbed attachment or build your own platform around it. Hope this was really helpful to you guys. We'll catch you on the next video. Michael out.